Good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha Television. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. Now, the nation is celebrating Sardar Patel Jayanti as the Rashtriya Ekta Divas. That is the big story that we are tracking. Let us begin with the headlines. Prime Minister to administer a pledge of unity as nation marks 140th anniversary of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Day being observed as the Rashtriya Ekta Divas with a run for unity being flagged off in Delhi. Beef controversy reflects in Moody's review. Ratings agency cautions Modi government that it will lose credibility if it doesn't check provocative comments. Civil aviation draft policy unveiled. 2% levy on all air tickets proposed. Proposal to raise FDI in domestic carriers also made. Shiv Sena threatens to pull out of BJP government in Maharashtra after its leader and PWD minister Eknath Shinde offers resignation. Chief Minister calls it a drama. And world powers failed to reach concrete agreement on Syria's future after the meeting in Vienna. But in what could flare up situation on the ground, US decides to station its first ground troops in Syria against Islamic State. Well, our top story, the Prime Minister will flag off the run for unity on the occasion of Sardar Patel's birth anniversary. In a short while from now, the 140th birth anniversary of Sardar Patel is being celebrated across the country today as the Rashtriya Ekta Divas. The Prime Minister first offered a floral tribute at Sardar Patel's statue on Parliament Street. Now he's addressing people assembled at Rajpath for the run for unity and administer the pledge of unity to them. The participation is voluntary and a large number of people, including school children and sports persons, are expected to join the run for unity. On the eve of the Rashtriya Ekta Divas, the pledge of national unity was administered at many offices of the Government of India in New Delhi. Celebrations are also being organized in states which union ministers would be attending at different places. And let's now cut across live to Rajpath, where the Prime Minister is addressing the people as the country marks the 140th birth anniversary of the Iron Man of India, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel.
तो उसकी पहली शर्त है एकता, शांति, सद्भावना। एकता, शांति और सद्भावना के मंत्र को लेकर के 125 करोड़ देशवासियों के कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर के कदम से कदम चलने से अगर हिंदुस्तान का एक नागरिक एक कदम आगे बढ़ता है, हिंदुस्तान 125 कदम एक साथ आगे बढ़ जाता है, 125 करोड़ कदम आगे बढ़ जाता है। और इसलिए एकता के इस मंत्र को लेकर के एक राष्ट्र, एकता से जुड़ा हुआ राष्ट्र, एकता का मंत्र लेकर के चलने वाला राष्ट्र, एकता के लिए हर कुछ न्योछावर करने वाला राष्ट्र, यही हमारी सबसे बड़ी शक्ति है। और सरदार साहब का हमारे लिए एकता यही संदेश है। आने वाले दिनों में भारत सरकार की तरफ से राज्यों के साथ और सहयोग के साथ हम एक योजना बनाने के लिए सोच रहे हैं। मैंने एक छोटी कमेटी बनाई है, वो कमेटी उसका प्रारूप तैयार कर रही है और उस योजना का नाम है एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत। एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत, कल्पना यह है हर वर्ष अपने राज्य को किसी एक राज्य के साथ हर राज्य जोड़े। मान लीजिए हरियाणा तय करे कि भाई 2016 हम तमिलनाडु से जुड़ेंगे, तो 2016 में हरियाणा में स्कूलों में बच्चों को कम से कम 100 वाक्य तमिल भाषा के सिखाए जाए।
All right, Prime Minister Narendra Modi there addressing people on Rajpath. Remember, the country is celebrating the 140th birth anniversary of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and which is being marked as the Rashtriya Ekta Divas. Let's move on in the bulletin now. Well, the country's remembering country's third Prime Minister and paying tributes. The remembrance function will be organized at Indira Gandhi's memorial at Shakti Sthal in Delhi. A host of eminent leaders and dignitaries will pay floral tributes to Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi was assassinated by her own bodyguards in 1984 after Sikh separatist movement. She was Jawaharlal Nehru's daughter and she served the country from 1966 till 1984. Congressmen in Uttar Pradesh will also launch silent peace marches across the state on the occasion to draw the attention of the state authorities and highlighting the need for peace in view of the recent incidents of communal violence in the state. And in other news, now Moody's has become the first major global institution to comment on the recent political controversies in India. In a report on India's outlook, Moody's Analytics says it is important for Prime Minister Narendra Modi to keep fringe elements in check or risk losing credibility. However, it also clarifies that the report does not reflect the opinions of Moody's Investors Service, the global credit ratings agency.
The controversies surrounding beef has focused international attention on India. Referring to the ethnic tensions in the wake of these controversies, rating agencies Moody's has said that the Prime Minister must keep BJP members in check or risk losing domestic and global credibility. The comments were made in a report titled India Outlook Searching for Potential by Moody's Analytics, the Economic Research and Analysis Division of Moody's Corporation. The report says, while Modi has largely distanced himself from the nationalist jibes, the belligerent provocation of various Indian minorities has raised ethnic tensions. Along with a possible increase in violence, the government will face stiffer opposition in the upper house as debate turns away from economic policy. Modi must keep his members in check or risk losing domestic and global credibility. In the report, Moody's Analytics has projected India's GDP growth for the September quarter at 7.3% and for the full fiscal at 7.6%. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
All right, now let's get you some news from poll-bound Bihar. Well, the Bihar Election Office has sought a report on BJP President Amit Shah's firecrackers in Pakistan comment after a complaint launched against him by a RJD delegation. The State Election Office sought a report from the returning officer and district magistrates of the East and West Champaran district on the remark. JDU, Congress and RJD partners in the Grand Secular Alliance had also knocked the doors of the Election Commission in New Delhi against Shah. And Shah had made that controversial comment at a rally in Raxaul in East Champaran. He had said and the same thing in another rally in Betiha, which is the headquarters of West Champaran district. Now, East Champaran and the West Champaran districts have 12 and 9 assembly seats respectively and would be going to polls in the fourth phase on 1st of November. And the Election Commission has clamped a ban on the publication of two controversial advertisements printed by BJP in poll-bound Bihar. The EC, while calling the ads inflammatory, directed the Chief Electoral Officer of Bihar to ensure that these ads were not published till the election process was over. The BJP had earlier this week released two advertisements in vernacular print media that the Election Commission found against the provisions of the Model Code of Conduct. One of the advertisement alleges Mahagathbandhan of snatching the plate of Dalits by planning to transfer the quota meant for Dalits to the EBCs to minorities. The other advertisement deals with the vote bank politics, claiming that the RJD, JDU and the Congress leaders are giving sanctuary to terrorists. Now, the remaining two phases of the 5-phase polls in 16 of 38 districts of Bihar will be held on 1st and 5th of November.
अमित शाह पर प्राथमिकी दर्ज हो, प्रधानमंत्री पर दर्ज हो, जिन्होंने इस तरह की इन्फ्लेमेटरी जो दिए हैं वहां पे विज्ञापन, उन पे मुकदमे दर्ज हो और भविष्य में आज के बाद कोई इस तरह का विज्ञापन न आए.
Well, the much-awaited civil aviation draft policy was unveiled in New Delhi yesterday. Several proposals have been made by the government, prominent among them being a 2% levy on all air tickets to help fund the regional connectivity scheme. Now, a proposal to raise FDI in domestic carriers has also been made.
To make flying affordable for the common man, the government has come up with several proposals in a draft civil aviation policy. The policy was unveiled by the Civil Aviation Ministry on Friday with the purpose to boost regional connectivity. The new policy suggests a 2% levy on airfares on trunk routes to subsidize air travel to underserved and unserved destinations. It also proposes 50% FDI in domestic carriers. Among the other measures, the policy proposes the setting up of no-frills airports at over 401 unused airstrips across the country. These would be developed at an estimated cost of around 50 crore rupees each. The policy also suggests capping fares at 2,500 rupees for 1-hour flights under the Regional Connectivity Scheme.
We invite suggestions from the stakeholders, from the public, because this involves the people of the country. And all those suggestions that come in, we'll be looking at it.
Among other things, the draft policy proposes to rationalize jet fuel costs, promote air cargo, maintenance, repair and operations through fiscal and regulatory concessions, and frame separate regulations for promoting helicopter operations. To make MRO, that is maintenance, repair and overhaul, cheaper, the government has proposed to exempt such activities from the service tax net and not levy any VAT.
It should be a policy which takes flying to masses. It should no longer confine flying only to the elite class of the people. It should take flying to the masses. In keeping with that directive of Honorable Prime Minister, we have attempted to create this policy.
However, the government has decided to seek more comments from stakeholders before taking a final call on 520 norms, whereby local airlines can fly overseas only when they have 5 years operational experience and a fleet of at least 20 aircraft. The draft policy would be put up for comments for the next 3 weeks. With Navikram Singh, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And news coming in from Maharashtra. Well, all is not well in the Shiv Sena BJP alliance there. Uddhav Thackeray has threatened that his party will pull out of the state government after Sena leader and PWD minister Eknath Shinde submitted his resignation. The Sena is accusing the BJP of not paying heed to their opinion. Now, Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis has dismissed the resignation as a drama.
Not a very happy post-first anniversary alliance in Maharashtra. The Shiv Sena is threatening to pull out of the government with the BJP. The threat coming soon after Sena leader and Public Works Department Minister Eknath Shinde offered his resignation at a public rally in which Shiv Sena chief Uddhav Thackeray was present.
मंत्रिपदाचा राजीनामा तुमचा एकट्याचा मी घेणार नाही. जर मला असं वाटलं की खरंच हे सरकार मस्तीमध्ये वागतंय तर मी पूर्णपणे सरकारचा पाठिंबा काढून या सरकारला रस्त्यावरती आणण्याचं.
The reason behind Shinde's dramatic resignation at the rally was what he said was the BJP's high-handedness in the alliance. Shinde said the opinions of Sena leaders is not considered, and coupled with the recent friction between the two parties over inviting Pakistani artists, authors and cricketers to the beef ban, the situation was reaching a flashpoint. But Chief Minister Fadnavis dismissed the entire episode as a drama. The ruling alliance tussle has given the opposition a reason to criticize the state of affairs in Maharashtra.
इनके गवर्नमेंट को लगभग अभी पूरा होने जा रहा है. एक साल में ही सरकार के 3-13 बज गए, जैसे बोलते हैं ना इसे मराठी में. वैसे हालात है. दोनों एक सरकार में है, बस सरकार में होते हुए दोनों आपस से इस तरह लड़ रहे कि ऑपोजिशन में जैसे लोग खिलाफ में बात करते हैं, वैसे गवर्नमेंट में एक दूसरे के बारे में इनका जो रवैया है वो बहुत ही शर्मनाक है.
जब से बीजेपी और शिवसेना की सरकार महाराष्ट्र में बनी है, 1 साल कल ही उन्होंने जश्न मनाया है, परंतु जिस तरह की घटनाएं रोजाना हम मुंबई में देखते हैं, महाराष्ट्र में देखते हैं, जो लेवल ऑफ इंटॉलरेंस बढ़ गया है महाराष्ट्र में, और वहां के मुख्यमंत्री मुख्य दर्शक बन गए इन सारे प्रोटेस्ट के.
Neither of the two parties have done much to calm tensions. The Sena has taken the fight a step further by criticizing Prime Minister Narendra Modi in its party mouthpiece, Samna. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in Breakfast News, we'll take a very short break. We'll be back with more news. Stay with us.
Today we will discuss the Supreme Court judgment on Section 66A and why it was struck down from the Information Technology Act.
I personally feel that 66A was a sword hanging on the heads of every citizen of this country.
Political dissent, informed views, high level of communication, which is the bedrock of an open and democratic society.
The funny thing is that new laws are being created to restrict our freedom as opposed to grant us greater freedom, which is what you would expect from a maturing society.
Watch Law of the Land, Sunday 10 p.m. and Monday 8:30 a.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. News from Tamil Nadu, where the cybercrime police there arrested a folk singer S. Sivadas, alias Kovan, for allegedly making derogatory remarks against Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha. The 45-year-old singer had demanded the closure of liquor shops in the state. Here's a report.
Folk artist Kovan was detained by the Chennai police allegedly for criticizing the Jayalalitha government. He had recently released a song on alcoholism, blaming the Jayalalitha government. His lawyer said he faces charges of sedition and attempt to create enmity between groups.
He sing a song against government and liquor shop, and he made some statements regarding the government and its act. They are protesting, they are suppressing the protests of the people. In this song, that's why they filed sedition and other criminal charges against him.
When somebody talks about prohibition and says that accuse the government of opening Tasmak and making people drink, it's not a crime, it is not an offence, it is his opinion. So why should they arrest? This is one more attempt to suppress the freedom of expression.
Kovan belongs to the MKIK group, whose supporters protested against his detention. His song protests about the rising prices of education and food in the state, for which he holds the chief minister responsible. Elsewhere, he appeals to the ruling party to shut down liquor shops that have ruined the state. Opposition parties, including the DMK, have been calling for a ban on liquor in the state. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now let's take a look at some of the stories that are lined up for the day in a day ahead. The ex-servicemen will hold a rally today at Mumbai's Azad Maidan to protest against the delay in the notification to the One Rank One pension scheme. Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar had on 5th of September announced the OROP after months of protests and hunger strike in Delhi's Jantar Mantar. In one of the biggest reshuffles before the 2017 Assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh, Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav is likely to induct new faces in his cabinet today. The new cabinet ministers will be sworn in by State Governor Ram Naik at Raj Bhavan in the morning. CM Akhilesh Yadav on 28th of October removed 8 ministers from his cabinet and took away the portfolios of ministers. A local court in Delhi will hear the arguments on framing of the charges against Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia and 4 other AAP leaders in Rail Bhavan Dharna case. All these ministers are accused of violating prohibitory orders during agitation at Rail Bhavan in Delhi in 2013. Kejriwal held a dharna demanding immediate suspension of corrupt officials who refused to act in the interest of public, whose cause Somnath Bharti had taken up in the Khirki extension case. Nepal will elect its new vice president today. Major political parties, including the ruling CPN UML, are contesting for the post after failing to come up with a consensus candidate. Madeshi leader of the Nepali Congress, Bimnaya Kumar Yadav, and ruling alliances Nand Kishore Pun Pasang are in the fray for the post. And on to the big international story. Well, the world powers failed to reach a concrete agreement on Syria's future as they met in Austrian capital Vienna on Friday. But they have agreed to step up efforts to end the civil war. They will also approach the UN to start a process that could lead to a ceasefire and fresh elections. Meanwhile, the US has decided to station its first ground troops in Syria against Islamic State.
This meeting was definitely not an easy one, but for sure an historical one, as we had for the first time all the actors around the table, and I would say a very constructive atmosphere.
Substantial differences remain, but there is a ray of hope as some progress has been made, as world leaders wrapped up the international peace talks in Austrian capital Vienna. They have agreed for a UN intervention. Now the World Peace Body will initiate a process for ceasefire talks and fresh elections in war-torn Syria. They will also work for an improved access to humanitarian aid for Syrians in and outside the country. The ministers will reconvene after 2 weeks for further talks.
Sergei Lavrov and Foreign Minister Zarif and I and others agree to disagree. The United States' position is there is no way that President Assad can unite and govern Syria. And we believe that Syrians deserve a different choice, and our goal is to work with Syrians from many factions to develop that choice.
With all parties calling for a truce, the Obama administration has decided to send some 50 special troops to Syria in one of its major policy shifts. It will be the first sustained US troop presence in Syria. The move has irked many, including Democrats and Republicans back home in the US.
It really coincided. It's coincidence more than anything. The president has been determined to try to make certain that we were going to increase our efforts against Daesh, because to everybody's obvious perception, more needs to be done.
И вопросы возможного объявления прекращения огня параллельно с политическим процессом решено эти консультации продолжить с участием Организации Объединенных Наций.
On the ground, Syria is boiling. Videos show scenes of destruction in Syrian cities of Homs and Idlib after it was hit by airstrikes. Russia and Iran have already stepped up their military involvement in the conflict, backing Assad forces. Now, with the US all set to send troops to train and support rebels against Assad, tensions are running high. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
News coming in from Romania, where at least 27 people were killed when a fire broke out at a nightclub in the capital Bucharest on Friday. Now at least 155 people are reportedly injured. The all injured people are rushed to the nearby hospital. Reports suggest that at least 400 people were inside the club when the fire broke out. The club was hosting a rock concert. Many were injured in the stampede following the fire. While the cause of the fire is still unknown at the moment, the investigation is on. Meanwhile, the Romanian President Klaus Iohannis has called it a tragic incident. And Myanmar will go to polls on 8th of November, its first elections since a nominally civilian government was introduced in 2011. Now, these elections end nearly 50 years of military rule. The elections are being monitored by observers from the European Union and the US.
Observers from the European Union began monitoring the early voting process in Myanmar on Friday. The early voting process will enable election and security staff to cast their vote, as they will not be able to do so on November 8th, the day historic polls will be held in the country. The EU will have 30 long-term observers and 62 short-term observers deployed across the country. The US-based Carter Center is also sending its observers.
We are here to deliver an assessment of the entire electoral process, not just related to the election day. So we are looking at the run-up to the elections, the campaign period. We're looking at the election day, and we're also looking at the weeks after the elections. And all of that information together will allow us to give then an informed analysis of the process.
After 49 years of military rule, many people are confused about the voting process. In fact, not many eligible people knew that an early voting process was underway. Meanwhile, pre-poll violence has marred the historic process. An opposition lawmaker and 2 other people were seriously injured in an attack on Thursday. The lower house lawmaker belonged to Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy party. The attack raises security concerns for Suu Kyi, who is to hold a rally on Sunday in the heart of Yangon. The Nobel Peace Prize laureate has travelled the country galvanizing support for her party that promises sweeping changes, faster reforms and a state respectful of ethnic minorities. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And more international stories now in World Wrap. China has issued a serious warning to the US Navy against carrying out what it calls provocative acts in the South China Sea. This is 2 days after Washington vowed to again sail warships near disputed islands. China's Navy chief said that even a minor incident could spark conflict between the two sides. Tensions have mounted since China transformed reefs in the area into small islands capable of supporting military facilities, a move the US says threatens freedom of navigation. 3 Palestinians were killed from Israeli fire while many others injured in West Bank and Gaza protests. Israeli police claimed that the 2 Palestinians had approached the checkpoint on a motorbike carrying knives. Since 1st of October, Israeli forces have killed 69 Palestinians, while 9 Israelis have died in stabbings or shooting incidents. Saudi-led coalition jets continued airstrikes in the Yemeni capital of Sana'a, including the Houthi-controlled Dialani Air Base near the city's international airport. The airstrikes came as efforts to convene UN-backed peace talks for Yemen were failing. A Saudi-led coalition has been carrying out airstrikes on Houthi positions for 7 months now, seeking to restore the Yemeni government of President Abu Mansur Hadi, which was forced into exile last year. A Polish court has rejected a request to extradite film director Roman Polanski to the US over a 1977 child sex conviction. The court said that the extradition was inadmissible because the US judiciary had repeatedly violated his rights. The 82-year-old Oscar-winning director had pleaded guilty in 1977 and had fled US after serving 42 days in jail after a plea began. And on to sports now. World number 1 doubles pair of Sania Mirza and Martina Hingis will face the Chinese duo of Hao Qing Chan and Yung Gang Chan for a place in the final of the women's doubles at the WTA finals. The Indo-Swiss pair have been in superb form this season as they notched up their 20th straight win yesterday following their victories in the opening 2 round-robin matches. The pair came up with another top-class performance to beat Hungarian-French 4th seeds Taimia Babos and Kristina Ladinovic 6-4, 7-5 in the 3rd round-robin match. Sania had won the prestigious tournament last year with Zimbabwe's Cara Black. And more sporting action now in Sportsbeat. The International Olympic Committee has revoked the Olympic qualification status of the Asian Shooting Championship to be held in Kuwait City from 3rd to 11th of November. IOC said the primary reason for the decision was owing to the technical delegate of the ISSF being denied a visa by Kuwait. The ISSF will now have to allocate another event from which Asian shooters can qualify for the Rio Olympics. India is among the 3 countries in the running to replace Kuwait. International Cricket Council cleared the bowling action of Pakistan off-spinner Bilal Asif. The 30-year-old was reported for a suspect action following his second one-day international appearance against Zimbabwe earlier this month. Asif was recently called up to the Pakistan Test squad but did not play in the second Test win against England. Rafael Nadal came back from a set-down to defeat Marin Cilic to reach the semi-final at the Basel International. The world number 8 won his quarter-final match 4-6, 6-3, 6-3. He will play now Frenchman Richard Gasquet in the last 4. Top seed Roger Federer also reached the semis after a 3-set 6-3, 3-6, 6-1 victory over David Goffin. Bundesliga champions Bayern Munich's record season opening winning streak was ended at 10 games after they were held to a goalless draw by Eintracht Frankfurt. The draw moves the champions Bayern 8 points clear of Borussia Dortmund at the top of the table. That's all in this edition of Breakfast News. Have a great day ahead.